Right, guys. Good evening, everybody. Right. So, in our last class, so we have discussed a few pointers on different kinds of filters. So, um, we have discussed in what levels we can apply different filters. So, worksheet level, data source level, and uh, across multiple data sources. Okay. So, So within worksheet, we have seen how we can apply filters at header level, at data view level, marks card level, and filter shelf level. Within filter, we have seen how we can apply filters on dimensions, dates, and also measures. So yesterday we have discussed about quick filters as well. So we have seen how we can apply quick filters and also context filters. We have seen what a context filter is all about. So yesterday we have continued with the uh, different tasks for filtering at filter shelf level. So we have continued with task for filtering uh, text and geographic dimensions, and also we have continued with different tasks on filtering dates and date plus time dimensions. Also, we have seen with few tasks and examples how we can filter on filtering with the measures. Okay, so we have seen different options at individual and aggregated level on measures. So we have seen quick filters, how we can apply quick filters on a sheet level. So we've seen context filters as well, and we've seen different um, advantages and disadvantages of context filters. Um, so we've seen what a context filter is all about and their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so basically, if if we want in Tableau, by default two filters will act independently. So if we want the output of one filter to be dependent on the other second filter, so we apply context filters. So basically, if you want a dependency on one filter, so we apply context filters. That means one filter takes precedence only after that filter gets applied onto the view. Then the second filter will take the output of the first filter, and then it performs the filtering on the primary filter. So we've seen how we can do that with few examples as well. Okay, so today, so we are going to see a different type of a filter called parameter filters. So in Tableau, we can create parameters and we can use parameters for filtering data in Tableau. Okay, right. So we'll see how we can work with parameters in Tableau. So I'm opening a new book and connecting to a data source. So we can create a parameter like this. Okay, so parameters are used to collect user defined values. So you can name a parameter, you can define any user defined values. Okay, like a text like this. Okay, so parameters are used to collect user defined values that can be used throughout your workbook. So if you define create a parameter appears throughout the workbook. So it it appears across different data sources, also across different sheets. So it is independent of worksheet or data source. So a parameter is applied on a workbook level. A parameter is applied on a workbook level. So a parameter is used to collect user defined values. So if you want to compare the user defined values with the values in the database, so you use a parameter. So parameters are basically used to collect user defined values that can be used throughout your workbooks. So you have to note here that the values are not tied to a particular field or data source. So these values that you give are not tied to a particular data source. They are independent of any data source or a particular field. So what that means is the list selection that you give here within the parameters are static here. So these are all static values. The values that you give here are all static values. So we also have to see that since the parameter selections, this parameter selection, so you can create this parameter and then show that parameter. So these becomes parameter selections. The values, the list values that you give becomes different parameter selections. Becomes different parameter selections. Okay. Since the parameter selections that you have generated, that you have created, are not driven by data values, so they are not driven by data values. They are just static values. So because they are not driven by any data values, it is important. It is very important to always reference the parameter in a calculation. So we have to reference this parameter in a calculation. Why? The reason is because these parameter selections are not driven by any data values. They are all just a static value that you define, user defined static values. So uh, if you want to make use of these parameter selections, it is always important to reference the parameter into a calculation. So we have to reference this parameter into a calculation. So we will see how we can do that with an example. Okay. So first we'll first uh, look into different aspects of a parameter where that is used, and then we'll look into different examples to understand referencing a parameter into a calculated field. Okay, right. Okay, so parameter basically allows the user to pass their own values dynamically. So here in a test parameter, I've defined my own values here. So parameter basically allows the users to pass their own values dynamically. Okay, so you can pass your own values dynamically. So in Tableau, we can create different types of parameters. In Tableau, we can create different types of parameters. So what are the different types? So the different types are float, float parameter. The data types of these parameters are float, integer, string, boolean, date and time. Okay, so these are the different types, data types, which we can use to create parameters. These are the different parameter types. Okay, so depending on the data type, depending on the data type of the parameter, so these, you have to define a data type for the parameter. So depending on the data type of the parameter, we can pass the values in three ways. So we can pass the values in three ways. So what are the three ways? One is all, and the second is list, the third one is range. Okay, depending upon the date type, we can pass the uh, pass three pass the values in three ways, pass the data type in three ways. So uh, we have to remember here that all is always dynamic. The all is always dynamic in nature. Okay, if you select all, so it is always dynamic in nature. So if you select list or if you select range, they are static in nature. So that means if you give a list, so they're static values. They're static values. So data type being an integer will give an all integers. And if you give a list, this is a static value. If you give a range, this is also a static range. This is also a static range. However, if you if you choose all as one of the ways, okay, to pass the values, so it is a dynamic way. So you can give any number, for 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 this parameter, for this parameter, called integer. Okay, so there are three ways and different types that you can define a parameter. Okay, so here there is boolean here. Okay, so boolean is the only type of parameter which doesn't support available values. So uh, this is the only type of parameter which doesn't support available values. So it has only either true or false. However, if you choose any other type of a parameter, so you can choose the values that are there in the data source. Okay, so you can choose, it supports the values that are there in the data source. Okay, so you can add the values which are there in the data source. For example, if you choose a string, so you can give all the values. For example, you are looking for region or you're looking for country, so you can give a list of all the countries or list of all the regions in the list of values. Okay, so they can be referenced to a calculated field in the data source. Okay, however, in boolean, so we cannot, it doesn't support any available values. Okay, so as we have seen, um, parameter exhibits two behaviors. One is static and another is dynamic. So if you select all, this is this behavior is static in nature. If you select sorry, this is all is dynamic in nature. And if you select list and range, or list or range, so they are dynamic in nature, static in nature. So there will be restrictions or limitations for the data that you can input. If you select all, there is no restriction, so it's a dynamic in nature. So basically, parameter exhibits two types of behaviors, so static in nature and dynamic in nature. Okay, okay, so parameter is dynamic in nature if available values is all. Okay, parameter is dynamic in nature if the nature in nature, if available values is all, and static if it is list or range. Okay, it is static if it is list or range, right? So now we will actually see some samples of usage of parameters. So where do we use parameters? Okay, where do we use parameters? So we use parameters in calculations. We use parameters in calculations. For example, um, if you want to see what if in a what if analysis. Okay, so this is one of the usage, and we can use parameters as an input for filters. We can use parameters as an input for filters. So we'll see all with few examples so that you can understand this better. First, I'm listing out all the usages. Okay, so the third usage is to allow a user to interactively select measure or dimension values. interactively select, measure, or dimension values. Okay, so to allow a user to interactively select, measure, or dimension values. You can also use a parameter to be referenced in titles, captions, or tooltips. Okay, you can also reference parameters in titles, captions, or tooltips for adding dynamism in the views. Okay, so we can also use parameters to set the number of items you would like to be returned in a top N report. So you can use a parameter. So in a top N report, for example, in a view, if you are giving a top N as top 10, so if you are fixing it, you only will be able to see top 10 items in the view. However, if you want a dynamic functionality for the end user to select either top 5, top 3, top 7, top 10, or top 15, or even top 20, so you can give a parameter, and then an end user can drop in his or her own number, and they can view the top n numbers based on the dynamic number given in the parameter. So for that purpose also, a parameter can be can be used. Okay, so these are the different usages of parameters. So in calculations, as a input for filters, okay, to allow user to interactively select, measure, or dimension values. That means you can give a parameter and then select different measures, and that measure or dimension dynamically changes in the view. So same applies with titles, captions, or tooltips. If you want some dynamic changes in the view based on the parameter selection, so you can use a parameter in titles, captions, and also tooltips. Similarly, for top N, you can give the dynamism in the reports using parameters. Basically, these are also a kind of parameters or a kind of filters to uh, to limit or restrict the view in the visualization. Okay, right. So we will perform few tasks now to understand the concept of parameters. Right. So here, so our intention is to display the top end customers based on sales. So we'll try to find, we'll try to uh, uh, give an example for this type of usage for top end reports. Okay, right. So now we'll drag customer names into filters and click on top and select by field, and, select top here, and create a, and go to create a new parameter here. Go to create a new parameter. We'll enter the parameter name as top n, and the allowable values as all. So what is the nature of the parameter that we are giving? If you are giving all,
Dynamic.
yeah, dynamic nature, right? And click OK here. So we'll select sum of sales, right? And click on apply and OK. Now we'll drag customer name into rows and click and sales into columns. In the parameter, the default is 10 here. So I'll select 3. So I'll get top 3 customers only. So if I select 20, I'll get top 20 customers. Similarly, top 7, I'll get top 7 customers, right? So using a parameter, we can create top n functionality. So basically, so to set the number of items you would like to be returned in a top n report. So we have used a parameter to set the number of items you would like to be returned in a top n report, right? So it's a dynamic nature value that you give it in a parameter, and then the visualization automatically changes. So for what have we done? So we have created a filter with top n, okay, by selected by field, and in top we have created a new parameter, so called top n. So within top n, so we have uh, given sales, sum of sales, and then clicked OK. So we'll see what is a top n parameter here. So within top n, we have selected it as an integer, and allowable values are all here. So we can give any number of values here. So if you give list, so it is restricted to few numbers only. If you give range, it is also restricted to few numbers only. So if you, the minimum and maximum that you can give is only top 100. So you can give so for example, if you give only top 10, 1 to 10 as range here, so you are restricting that. So you can only give top 10 here. Okay. So if you give top 20, it will not apply. If you give top 15, it will not apply, because the restriction or static nature of the parameter is it's the nature of the parameter is static in nature, right? So that's why you will not be able to get it. So if you want a dynamic functionality, you have to make it as a dynamic. Okay, you have to define a dynamic nature uh, by giving all here. Okay, right. So now you will be able to get top 20. Right. So we'll perform one more task. Will display bottom end countries based on profits. So we'll drag country and drop it into filters. Now we'll click on top, select by field, and select bottom, and click on create a new parameter. We'll enter the parameter name as bottom n, and the allowable values as all. We want dynamic nature, and click on OK. And we'll select profit and aggregation as sum. Click apply and OK. So now we'll click on country geographical field, and we'll drag profit into size and into label. Okay, so these are the bottom 10 countries by sales. Okay, these are the bottom 10 countries based on based on profits, so you can also get bottom 5 as well. Okay, so these are the bottom 5 countries based on profits. Okay, we'll perform one more task. Here we will display all the customers whose sales is more than the user selection. Okay, so we'll define a user selection. Okay, and based on the user selection, we have to compare the sales of customers, and based on the selection, we have to display only those customers who are having sales more than the selection that you have mentioned. So now we'll create a parameter. So we'll go to a drop down icon just beside dimensions here, and then click on create parameter. This is also another way of creating a parameter. We'll create parameter. So we'll give a name as sales limit and type as float, data type as float, and we'll allowable values as all. We'll click OK here. We'll click OK. Now we'll drag customer name and then drop it into filters. Okay. In filters, we'll click on condition and select by formula. So here we will define sum of sales, sum of sales. So always remember that a field in the database is denoted with a orange visual cue. So the aggregation will be in blue. The field will be always in orange color in square brackets. In square brackets in orange color will be the uh, or field in the data source. And in what color will be a parameter? Parameter will be in purple color. So we'll see that also. So a field will always be in square brackets and orange color. So that is the visual cue for that. So now we'll give a calculation by form. We'll give a formula here. Sum of sales greater than sales limit. Okay. So because we want, what is our main intention here? We have to display all the customers whose sales is more than the user selection. So if the sales of the customers is more than the user selection, we have to give this formula, right? So basically we are aggregating with sum of sales and comparing if the sum of sales of customers are more than the sales limit parameter that you give it. So a parameter is in square brackets and in purple color, whereas a field is in orange color and square brackets. So we are comparing sales which is there in our field in database called order field, order table of training superstore sales database, and comparing that with sales limit. Sales limit is a parameter. This is a user defined static field that we have static entries that we have defined. Basically we are comparing both sales from data source and sales limit in parameter. We'll click on OK here. Now, so we'll drag customer name into rows and sales into columns. And we'll also drag sales into color and label. Okay, and we'll sort this by descending order. And we'll show the sales limit parameter. Right click on the parameter sales limit and click on show parameter control. So we can limit the sales. So in the parameter, so there is a limit called 1. So it is showing all the sales more than 1. However, we'll check this with another number. So we'll, rather than 1, we'll give 10,000. So we'll again check. So see the sales values are more than 10,000 here. Okay, so we'll again check whether all the customer sales amount is more than 10,000 or not. So we'll see that. Yes, it is starting from 10,000. So we'll give 100,000. So here the sales values are more than 100,000. Okay, so starting from 100,000 we are getting it. So our intention is to display all the customers whose sales are more than the user selection. So user selection is 100,000. So we are getting um, only those sales for customers whose sales are more than 100,000, right? So this is a kind of a filter where using a parameter dynamic value we are able to filter out the values in the view. Okay, right? So we have seen here that as an input for filters we are using parameter as well. Okay, so we are using as an input for filter and then creating a parameter for filtering the view. Okay, this is
Kranti, here I have one question.
yeah,
So, so in the formula window, you have taken the sum and also as soon as when you type, it is coming. So, is there any folder or any? Do you have any folder, in Tableau where it will show all the functions which are available, Tableau supported, like
yeah,
Informatica and business subjects? Do we have
yes,
some?
yes, yes.
Okay.
So whenever you create a parameter or any
Mm-hmm.
calculated field, sorry, uh,
Mm-hmm.
if you create a calculated field, so you press this icon here. So you will have all the functions that are there in Tableau here. Okay.
Oh, okay,
So
okay, yeah.
these are all the different functions. So you click on it and you will get what the function is all about, the
Mhm.
syntax of that function as well. We'll discuss each one of these functions in our training
Okay,
sessions. So in our future
okay,
classes, we will discuss each one of these functions. Okay.
mm,
So we can get it. Yeah.
okay,
You don't have
okay.
to worry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Now we'll perform one more task. So here our intention is to display country-wise profits in between the user selection of start date and end date in the form of a calendar. Okay, so we'll create two parameters. One is start date and another is end date. Okay, with the data type as date, and based on that, so the country-wise profits would be displayed in the view. Okay, so we'll create two parameters first. So the first one is start date. What is the data type? What is the data type? Date. Data type is date. So we'll define a start date here. So by default, we'll define one date. We can change that later also. But however, we'll define one date. So we'll keep 1st Jan 2013 as our start date, but, as a default value. Similarly, we'll duplicate this parameter and create a, we'll edit this and then create a end date, and we'll keep this as December 31st of 2013. Data type is date. Click OK. So we have uh, start date and end date as two different parameters now. So we'll drag order date and drop it into filter now. Okay, we'll drop it into filter. So we'll select individual dates and click on next. Okay, so we'll select condition here and we'll select by formula. So remember, observe here that when I am writing first few letters of the words, so we are getting an option of different fields or different parameters in the workbook. Okay, so so you first write few letters of the of the field, then you will be able to see that as different option or a drop down option. So select that from the options you get. So I'm correct. I'm basically in formula, I'm comparing the order date with the static order dates that are start date. So start date is a parameter. So parameter is in purple square brackets and order date is in orange square brackets. So I'm comparing order date. Eh, This is a field. Order date is a field dimension. It's a dimension in the dimension field in the data source called training superstore sales. So I'm comparing that with the parameter called start date and end date. So okay, and we have to greater than or equal to start date, and we have to define similar condition here, and less than or equal to end date. Okay, so order date is greater than or equal to start date and order date is less than or equal to end date. So I will click apply and okay. Now we'll click on country geography field and drag profit into color. Okay, and also label. Right, now we'll show the parameters also. Start date and end date. So these are the profit figures of different countries based on the start date and end date. So if you change the start date and end date, the profit figures also changes, right? So for example, rather than Jan, you may choose to select uh, okay, July. From the second half you want to see, so the numbers change like this. Okay, so I'm just undoing it. So see, observe the profit numbers, they change because we have changed the start date. See, the numbers change. Okay, so like this we can define our own parameters um, and then compare them with the dimensions in the data source, or any fields in the data source, and then based upon the input the views keep on changing. Okay, this is one type of a filter. So we'll see one more example here in this task. So we'll see how we can use all and none. So this is also one of the key functionalities that you will be using in parameters. So now we'll display department wise and category wise total sales. So we'll display department wise and category wise total sales. Okay, total sales depending on the selection of the users. So a user can select any values, and then depending on that we will display category wise or department wise sales, total sales. So the selection would be, the user would be performing the dynamic selection of departments. So either the uh, end user would be selecting any of the three departments. The three departments in the data sources are what? So office supplies, office supplies, uh, technology, and furniture. So, okay, these are the three departments. So we'll give the user the option to choose from any of these departments, or all of these departments, or none of these departments. Based on the selection, the view also should change in the view in the visualization. So we'll see how we can do that. Okay, basically uh, uh, will display department wise, category wise total sales depending on the selection of the users and perform the dynamic selection of departments using parameter. So the parameter contains department values. Parameter contains department values, all values and also none values, because uh, a user can select either of the departments, any one of the departments, all of the departments, or none of the departments. Okay, so if you select all, then it should display all the department values. So if you select an option in parameter as all, so the view should display all the departments. If you select none, it should display none of the departments. So uh, so that means if you select none, it has to hide everything. So it is a same functionality like in quick filter. So if you give a filter, it should show, or else it should not. So it is similar to that. So we'll try to do that. So we'll create a parameter with the name department now. Okay, the type is string because we have string values in department, and the allowable values as list, because we only have three values, right? So we'll enter the values as furniture, technology, and then office supplies. Okay, also we will add option to show all or none. Okay, along with the entries we'll add all and none. Click on OK. Now we will drag department and category into rows. First department and then category. Okay, then sales into columns. Now we have the visualization, and we'll show the parameter called department, right? Okay, now we'll drag the department and drop it into filters. Okay, now we'll click on condition and select by formula. Here we are comparing department, which is a field, with what? With department, which is a parameter. Okay, so if you select a parameter, it will be shown like this. In if you have same name of a field and parameter, so it will differentiate with dot parameter dot the name of the parameter. Okay, so because we have given the same name as the field in the database. Okay, so the name of the parameter and the field are same, so Tableau differentiates with parameter dot name of the parameter, right? And or so for all, what we'll do is, so we'll select this parameter and see, compare that with all. Okay, we click on apply and OK. Now we will in parameter we'll select department furniture and check the output. So we are getting only furniture output. Similarly technology, so it will show only technology. So if we select office supply, the view shows only office supply. If you select all, it will show all the three departments. If you select none, it will show nothing. Okay, so this is the functionality that we wanted, and we got it through parameter. Basically what did we want? So we want to display the department wise and category wise total sales depending upon the selection of the user and perform the dynamic selection of departments using what? Using a parameter. This parameter contains what? Department values. What are the department values? Furniture, technology, and office supplies, and also all and none. Okay, if we select all, then it should display all departments like this. And if you and for none, it has to hide everything like this. Okay, and if we select any department, it should show only that department data. Okay, so using a parameter, so we can create this type of a filtering as well. Okay, so we have to note here that the parameter evaluation is case sensitive. So the entries that you give in parameter should be uh, in same case. So it's a case sensitive. So when matching with the entries in the fields, so parameter evaluation is case sensitive in nature. Also note here that parameter will not support multi-value selection. Okay, so we are only having single value selection here. We don't have multi-value selection. It's the biggest limitation of parameter as of now. So maybe in the future releases of Tableau, we might get it, but as of now, we don't have multi-value selection in parameter. So this also might be one of the interview questions if you are trying for a Tableau role. So you might be asked if there is a multi-value selection for parameter. So the answer is no, as of now. Okay, right. So we'll perform one more task. Now we'll display category wise, item wise, item wise, order quantity, and display all the categories except the selection of the user. So now we will exclude the user selected value. Rather, now till now we are actually showing all the selected values, right? So if furniture is selected, only furniture is shown here. Now, if we select any value in parameter, that should not be shown. So basically it should be excluded from the view. So we'll see how we can do that. Now we'll create a parameter name with the category. Right. We've created a parameter and named it as category. The data type is string. Category has strings, right? So the data type should be string and allowable values as list. And there are few ways to add list. So you can add manually. In the previous examples, we have added manually like furniture, okay, furniture, technology and stuff. So okay, so we can add manually, or we can add the values directly from any field. Okay, so now after selecting list, we'll click on add from field, and we'll select category. So category values are the ones which we needed. So we will take those from the field category. So whatever values are there in category appears in the list here. Okay, go to add from field and select the field. So you'll get all the list of all the values in that field. There's also one more option, paste from clipboard. For example, if you have the values in an Excel sheet, like this, if you have a big list of values, so you copy from that list and then paste from click on paste from clipboard, so those will appear in the list like this. Okay, so there are three options. You can add manually, or paste from clipboard, or add from field also. So you can also add from parameter as well. Okay, so from department also you can add. So all those values from department will also be in this, so you don't want that. So if you have that necessity, you can add them. Okay, right. So what are the options? Add from parameter, add from field, paste from clipboard, and adding values manually. These are the different options to add the list values. Right. Now we'll click OK and drag category into filters. We'll click on condition and select by formula. Now, so our intention is to not display the category that we have selected in the parameter. So we will use category in the field and use an operator not equal to with category in parameter. Okay, and click on apply and OK. Okay, so we'll drag category into rows and order quantity into columns. We'll also choose item into rows. Okay, and show it as entire view and show category parameter. So if we select appliances, apart from appliances, we have all the categories in the view. Okay, so if you select bookcases, so or binders and accessories, so we are able to see binders and binder accessories. So if you select binders and accessories here, apart from binders and binder accessories, you are able to see all the categories. Similarly, paper, so you are able to see paper here. So apart from binders and we are able to see all the categories. So we are excluding, we want to exclude paper, so select paper. So apart from paper, we have all other categories. So this is the functionality that we can use for excluding any excluding any data from the view. Okay, right. So we'll also perform few more tasks to understand these parameters better. Okay, so we'll take a quick break, a couple of minutes, only a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back again and then try few more examples. Okay, see you after 2 minutes. Right, guys, so now we are going to see few more examples. So in this task, we are going to see dynamic measure selection with parameters. So we're going to see to allow the user to interactively select measure or dimension values. So we will going to see measure selection, okay, using parameters. Now, so our objective is to have a single view that needs to show different measures dynamically depending on user selection. So in the single view, based upon the selection which are made dynamically, so we have to show different measures, right? So here we'll use the same data source called Superstore, training Superstore sales. So mm, we'll create a new parameter here. So we'll name it as select measure. Select measure, right? Here we'll give the data type as integer and the display format would be automatic, and allowable values are list. So in the list we will define values as 1 2 3 4 because these are integers, and we'll give aliases to each number. Okay, so we'll change the display as for one change it as sum of profits, and for two we'll change the alias as sum of sales. So because we want dynamic measures, right? So what are the measures? Profit, sales, you can take shipping cost, you can also take unit price. So we'll take average shipping cost, and for 4 we'll take average unit price. Okay, these are just aliases. So the values would be 1 2 3 4 in the back end, but we'll display them as, for one we'll display it as sum of profit, for two we'll display it as sum of sales, for three we'll display it as our average shipping cost, and for four we'll display it as average unit price. And click on OK. So we have created a parameter, new parameter called select measure for creating a dynamic measure selection. Okay. Now we already have discussed that reference we have to reference that in a calculated field. So we'll try to reference this parameter into a calculated field. For that, we'll create a new calculated field now. We'll create a new calculated field. So we'll name this new calculated field as measure. In this, we'll write a formula using case statement. So we'll, in case, we'll use the parameter just created called select measure. So when the selection is 1, then we have to show sum of profit, right? For 1 we have given profit, right? So we have to show sum of profit. We'll close the bracket. Similarly, when 2, then we have to show sum of sales. When 3, then average shipping cost, average of shipping cost. You can use when or you can use else also. So we'll use when here. So when 4, then average unit price. Okay, and we'll end this case statement with end statement. Okay, right. So if the calculation is correct, you'll get a validity here saying the calculation is valid. If the calculation is not correct, you'll get an error like this. So you'll get a error statement also. So you need to read this error statement and then make the corrections accordingly. So an end statement is missing here. So using that, the calculation is valid now. So we'll click on OK. So basically we have created a calculated field called measure, and we have referenced a select measure parameter. So select measure parameter contains what? Select measure parameter contains values 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with aliases as 1 as sum of profit, 2 as sum of sales, 3 as average shipping cost, 4 as average unit price. So we have used the same with referencing in a calculated field here. The calculated field is measure. We have named it as measure. Using a case statement, we have referenced that select measure, and when the selection is 1, we are showing sum of profit from the database. When the selection is 2 in select measure parameter, then we have to show sum of sales from database. Okay, similarly for 3, average shipping cost; for 4, average unit price from the database. Okay, we're creating this calculated field and clicking OK here. Now we'll show this measure to rows. Okay, and order date to columns. Okay, order date to columns. Then we'll right click to change it to continuous month. We'll click month and make it as a continuous month. Okay, right. Basically, we have used measure and also order date, and we'll also use department for coloring, because there are 3 departments. We'll use these to color the view. Okay, these are the 3 departments: furniture, office supplies, and technology, right? So we'll right click on the select measure parameter and then choose to show parameter control. Okay, so we'll click on the menu option for the select menu control and change it to single value list. Okay, now we are able to see the parameter as a single value list like this. Okay, now what we can do, we can have an option to have a dynamic measure selection. So now we are selecting sum of profits here. So if you select sum of sales, we will get sum of sales numbers here. Similarly, if you select average shipping cost, these are all the average shipping cost measure numbers. If you select average unit price, these are all the average unit price measure numbers. Okay, right? So these are all different measures. So this is how we can use a parameter for to allow a user to interactively select a measure, okay, using calculations. So what we have done, we have created a parameter and referenced that into a calculated field, and based on the selection, so we have shown that parameter into the view. Based on the selection, the interactivity of the visualization has been shown here. Okay, on a single view we are showing 4 different charts with 4 measures. Okay, just by using a interactive parameter for measures. Okay, so this is also a functionality of parameter. So we can use this feature to show different views. So it's takes the what is the usage. So it actually saves a lot of space. Rather than showing 4 different charts, you are showing it in a single view with a functionality, dynamic and interactive functionality like this. Okay.
So in this way, only one query will generated with SQL, Kranti?
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
So yeah, only one query is generated. For each selection, one query is generated actually.
Oh, for each selection. Okay.
For each selection, a query is generated. Okay, because for if you change the selection, it has to refer to the measure, particular
Measure.
measure, right? So for each selection, a query will be generated. Right. So we can use a parameter to also add a reference line. So we'll see how we can do that as well on the same view. Okay. So we'll keep sum of profit here. So in our next example, we'll try to make a dynamic reference line. So objective here is to the user needs to need the ability to move the point of reference line and show before and after based on their selection. So a user should actually give some selection before or after, and based on the selection, a reference line should move from one point to another. So we'll see how we can do that using a dynamic reference line using parameters. Okay. So we'll continue with the same sheet. However, we'll duplicate this. We'll right click on the worksheet and then um, create a duplicate. Okay. We'll name it as dynamic reference line. So the earlier example was what? It is a dynamic measure selection using parameter. Okay, right. We have named it as dynamic reference line. So we'll create a new parameter now. So we'll name it as reference date. So the data type is date and time, and display format is uh, we'll keep it as mmdd YYYY format. So month, day, year. So we'll use first month mmdd YYYY format like this. Right. So we will allow a range, and for range we'll use a set from field. We'll select order date to define the minimum and maximum dates. So based on the order date, the minimum and maximum values automatically gets created. So in the data set, the data is starting from 1st Jan of 2010 and ending with uh, 31st of December 2013. Okay, so based upon the data set values, so it's showing minimum and maximum values. So we can choose select range and then click select from field and select the field, and the minimum and maximum values will be all automatically created based on the field that you have selected. Okay, right. Here for step size we'll take 1 month, 1 month. Okay, so because this is a reference date and time, so we'll take 1 month as step size. So for each month we will be showing this gap or for reference date. We'll click on OK. So we'll right click on the month of order date and choose to add reference line. So right click on the axis and click on add reference line here. So here should be a line. So we want a reference line. So we have to select line here. So the scope here would be entire table. So we want to show line in the entire table. So we have seen what a table is in the first class, right? So table is complete visualization. Okay. We want to show the reference line on entire table. So the scope is entire table. So the value is a reference date. Okay, now we'll keep month of order date for the time being. For strange reason, I'm not able to get this reference date in the list. Okay, and um, the label is value. The line has black dashed line. And no fill. The data window, will right click on the reference date parameter and choose parameter. Click on choose parameter. So now we'll create a calculated field which uses a boolean to determine whether order date is before or after reference date. So we'll create a calculated field now. So we'll name it as before or after. Okay. Now the formula that we use is order date is greater than reference date. So we're just comparing order date with the reference date. We'll click on OK. We'll color both by department and before and after. First we'll okay, department is already there, so we'll add before and after. So first so if you add directly, so if you want to add two fields into color, if you directly add before and after, so before and after is a boolean field which you have created. If you directly add, it will get replaced onto department like this. So we don't want this, right? So we'll undo this. So to do this, we'll add before and after to details on the marks card first. Okay, details on the marks card. So once it appears in as a detail like this, so this is called detail. Okay, so once it appears on the detail like this, you have to click on the menu to the left of the field. So this is a menu to the left of the field. Okay, click on this and click on color to apply it to color. Okay, you have to click on color to apply to color like this, right? So here the reference line should be reference date that we have created. One minute, guys. right guys? So here we have to use for month of order date. So rather than this month, we have to use this month, which is having month plus year. So using this, we'll have a continuous month and year like this. So now we will be able to add reference line. So we're able to add a reference date, which we have created. So uh, in this format only, we are able to get this date format. So we have changed the date format to a month and year here, and then by doing that, we are getting a reference date parameter. So select that reference date. Okay, select that reference date, and and give value, and the line should be a dotted line like this, dark black dotted line. Click on OK. So based on the selection in the reference date, so uh, you will get a shading like this, because we have before and after and department also. So basically we have created a dynamic reference line for a user who needs the ability to move a point of reference line. So the user will is having an ability to move a point of reference line like this, and you'll be able to show before and after based on their selection. Okay, these are the different dates, right? Different dates, and before and after. So this is you can create a view like this, okay, using a parameter. So reference date is again a parameter here, okay, right? So understood this?
Yeah. So, Kranti, what changed the date you did? Like one was
Yeah,
selected.
earlier I was using
Uh-huh.
month, this selection for month. So
Mm-hmm.
using this selection, we are not able to uh, what's it, no, not able to add the view. So
Reference.
reference line. So it used to be like this. So
So that
continuous,
is.
continuous.
Oh,
So
okay.
using this, you are not able to add the created reference date parameter. So even in this,
Mm-hmm.
you are not getting this reference date. So what I've done is I've changed that month to month and year, rather than just month is giving the number of the
Okay.
month, right? So rather than that, we have changed it to month and year. So this view will have, so now I'm getting the reference
Reference.
date as a the created parameter. So I just selected that, then choose the value here, and then clicked on OK.
Okay.
So based on the selections, we can get the dynamic view like this. Okay, right. So so even in dynamic reference line, we can use a parameter like this. Okay, right. So this is about parameters. So we will discuss a few things about parameters also. We are not done with parameters, so we'll also have touch parameter topic in maybe few, maybe today's or tomorrow's class. First, we will look at few other topics. So if we have to filter across sources also, we have to use parameters. At that point, we'll come back to these parameters again. Now, so now um, we will see what are the different file sharing options. Okay, so we'll see with what are the different file sharing options. So in Tableau, at the worksheet level, a filter can be shared in 4 ways. So if you apply a filter, that filter can be shared at a worksheet level. So remember this, at a worksheet level. So this is only at a worksheet level. We are discussing about file sharing options. So at a worksheet level, the filter can be shared in 4 ways. Filter can be shared. So department is a filter here, right? So this can be shared in 4 ways. So one way is to the current sheet. only to this worksheet. So this is a default option. By default, if you add any filter onto a worksheet, so that will apply only to that worksheet. That filter will apply only to that worksheet. The first option is to applying to the current sheet only. By this is by default option. So the second option is to specific sheets. Okay, so you can apply that filter to specific sheets also. So this is a new feature from Tableau 8.0. To selected workbooks we can apply that filter. So we are having we have included this filter in sheet number 9. So we can also include this filter in multiple sheets as well. In dynamic reference line and dynamic measure also we can apply. So what is the second option? To apply a filter to specific sheets or multiple sheets. Okay, so this now this filter is not just applying to one sheet but also to two other sheets, total three sheets. See, department is applying to this sheet and dynamic measure sheet as well, because so it will not appear to this sheet because we have selected only these three sheets. So the second option is to apply to specific sheets, to selected sheets. Okay, that is the second option. So the third option is to apply all using this data source. So you can apply a filter to all the sheets, all the worksheets using the data source. So what is the data source here? Data source is training superstore sales, right? So whatever worksheet uses this data source will be applied this this tab this filter if you apply this option. So what is option? All using this data source. So now you'll be able to see department in all these sheets. See, department is applying in this sheet also now. Okay, because order training cell superstars is the data source that you are using here. Okay, the fourth option is to apply all using related to all using related data sources. Okay, to apply to all the sheets using related data sources. This is a new feature from Tableau 10. It's a new feature from Tableau 10. Okay, so if you select this option all using related data sources, you'll be able to see that filter in all the related data sources. So this is across different data sources. This is across different data sources. Okay, so we'll try to uh, understand these concepts using few tasks. We'll try to understand using few tasks. Okay, now so in the first task we'll design few sheets. Okay, so for example we'll design year sales. So okay, so we'll design a sheet and name it as year sales. Okay, we'll design the sheet and name it as year sales. So we'll apply year filter to all the okay, so we'll also create one more sheet called year plus photo sales. And we'll also create one more sheet and name it as year plus month sales. Maybe we'll have one more sheet, continent sales. Okay, there we have 4 sheets here. So we will apply a year filter to all the sheets except continent here, and share continent filter to all the sheets. Okay, so we'll apply a filter called year. Year is coming from, year comes from order date, right? We'll apply a filter uh, year on all the sheets except continent, and share continent filter to all the sheets. Okay, we'll share the continent filter to all the sheets. So we'll see how we can do that. So first we need to create this year sales, year plus quarter sales, year plus month sales, and continent sales. Okay, so now we'll click on year sales sheet. We'll click on year sales sheets, and now we have to drag order date into filters. Okay, so we'll select years, and select, go to next, and select only 2013, only 2013. We'll click on apply and okay. Okay, so we'll right click on the year in the filters and click on apply to worksheets, apply to selected worksheets. Okay, and click on select year plus quarter as well. So first, to highlight this, we need to have some data. So the relationship should be maintained with the data source. So we will include some field into the view. So now a relationship with the data source has been established. Now we can add the year field filter. So selected worksheets, now they are highlighted. So now select year plus quarter and year plus month sales. Okay, click on OK. We are leaving continent sales here, so we'll clicking on OK here. So now we'll click on continent sheet and add a quick filter on continent. Okay, we'll right click on the, okay, we'll click OK, we'll click all. Oh no, it's not container, sorry, it's continent. Click on OK, right click on the field. Okay, right click on the field and apply to worksheets and select all using the data source, all using this data source. Okay, all using this data source. So we have to note here that if we create a new worksheet, Tableau automatically adds the shared filter to the data source. So if you create a new worksheet using the same data source, okay, if you, for example, if you create a, if you drag and drop any field onto the view, so the filters that have been created, the shared filters will automatically appear into the view. Okay, so now we are able to see uh, we are able to see year, in year sales we are able to see uh, year, department, and continent. Year, in year also we are able to see the year, department, and continent. However, in continent we are not able to see year because we have not included continent in year filter. So in for continent we have we have actually created a filter to show for all the sheets using the data source. That's why we are getting continent in all the sheets. Okay, in all the sheets. So we'll remove department here. So continent is the field which is having in all, which is showing in all the sheets because it is applied on a database level, data source level. However, this year is applied only to specific sheets: year sales, year quarter sales, and year month sales, not to continent sales. However, its continent sales is also coming from the same data source, but we have defined this filter year only to 3 sheets. Okay, so this is one task to understand that topic. And now we'll perform one more task. Right, so now we'll create 3 sheets. um, Country sales, state sales, and city sales. Okay, so we have created 3 sheets called country sales, state sales, and city sales. So we'll apply the country filter across state, city, and state filter only across cities. Okay, so we'll see how we can do that. We'll apply country filter across state and city. Across state and city, we'll apply country filter across state and city, and state filter across city only. In city, we'll apply um, state filter. Okay, so we'll see how we can do that. So we have to design 3 maps in 3 worksheets: country sales, state, state sales, and city sales. Okay, so in country sales, um, we'll add a quick filter on country. So we'll remove this filter. So we have added a quick filter on country. Okay, so in country sales sheet, we have added quick filter on country. So now we'll click on drop down in the quick filter. We'll click on the drop down in the quick filter and share it to state and city sheets. And share this filter to, okay, we'll first add some value. You can change it later also. So first we need to establish a relationship of the sheet with the data source to add filters. So we will go to that filter again and add this country to state and city. So we are applying country filter across state and city, state and city. So where we have added, so we have added a country filter onto country sheet first, and then shared it to state sales and city sales. Click on OK. So similarly, we'll add a quick filter on state and share it to city sheet. So here we'll add quick filter on state. And share it to city. I'll create a dashboard with these three sheets. I have country sales, state sales, and city sales. Okay, so here I am optimizing this filter. So first I will show apply button. I will use multiple value drop down to save the space, and I will convert this into a floating object so that I can place this over here. Also, similarly for state, I'll do the same. I'll customize and then show apply button and multiple value drop down. Here I will click on only relevant values because there is a hierarchy between this country and state. So if a country is selected, I will have to show only country values here, state values here, okay, based on the selection there in the country. So I will make this also as a floating object and then place it here at state. Okay. Now, now I will select a country, United States of America, and click on apply. And now I will select, I will get only those states based on the country selection. So I'll get only American states here. So I'll select any of the American states. You can select, because I've given multiple select, I can select one or more. So I'll select one here for the time being. Right, the country is US and the state is right. The view here should be state. The view here it should be state because it's a state view, right? And here the view should be, so we'll see the dashboard first. So we are getting the California state, and here we will select either a state or a city view. So we'll also try for city. Right, now we'll go to the dashboard. So the first level is the country, then the state, and then city. So we'll be able to get all the cities in California state. Okay. Okay. LA, these are all the cities in California. So we can get that view like this. So basically we have applied different filters onto the view based on multiple select. So we have applied few filters on a database level and few filters on on different only specific sheets. So using this we can make a dashboard like this. filters. Any questions? So now we are going to look at one more feature called filtering at a data source level. So till now, what we have seen is seen parameter filters, okay, on worksheet level. Okay, now we will see uh, filtering at data source level. So we'll see filtering at data source level. Okay, right. Um, so from Tableau 8.0, so from Tableau to 8.0, so we'll see data source filtering at data source level and then across multiple data sources now. So from Tableau 8.0, we can directly perform filtering at the data source level. Okay, so this is the data source sheet. So from Tableau 8.0, we can directly perform filtering at the data source level itself. If we apply filters at the data source level, then first Tableau applies the filter and then it will get only filtered data into Tableau. Okay, first a filter would be applied onto the database and then only that filter data would be into will be taken into Tableau. However, at worksheet, so this is about applying a filter on database level. How will you apply a filter at database level? Go to data source sheet, click on add filter, click on add, and then select any filter of your choice, the field of your choice. Okay, so for example, department. So click on OK and select only furniture. So the data that you get will be only of furniture. So go to the sheet and then click on view data. So you'll get only furniture data. Okay, so refresh first. Go, yeah, keeps furniture. So you are able to get only furniture data here. There is no technology and office supplies. Only furniture data is there in here. Yeah, okay. Only furniture data is there. See, the department is only furniture. There is no office supplies and there is no technology. So this is the filtering on data source level. So here, if we apply filters at data source level, first Tableau applies the filter and then only we will get the filtered data into Tableau. So however, if you do that at a sheet level, so we can also apply filters at sheet level, right? At a sheet level, Tableau connects to complete data source. So at sheet level, Tableau connects to complete data source like this, and then applies filter at the required sheet level. So if you apply a filter, if you apply a filter, what happens here is first all the data would be pulled into the sheet from the data source, and later on only we will be applying a filter. When you apply a filter at data source level, first a filter will be applied and only the filtered data would be coming into the view. Did you get the difference? That these are the this is also one of the important interview questions, so you should be knowing the difference. So we'll perform a task to know this. So we have to display only North American continent data for the year 2013 using data source filter. So to do that, so first we'll remove all the data source filters in the first place. So we'll right click on the data source. So we will first go to the sheet. So we'll right click onto the data source. We'll uh, click on edit data source, and click on filters. You'll click add and select continent. Click on OK and select North America, for example. Click on add to add the year and select order date. Click OK and select years. Click next and select the year as 2013 and click OK. Okay, now click OK again. Now go to the sheet and click on the view. Here you will see only North American data. The continent data will be having only North American data. The year order date would be of only 2013. So this order date data would be for only 2013. So only 2013 data would be there, as you can see in the view. Okay, right. This is the filtered data onto the view. Okay, so we have to note here that after adding the data source filter, if you want to modify or remove, so you have to click on the data source and go to the data source page here, and then under filters you have to click on edit option, and in the edit window you have to click on the any filters, and then either you edit the filters by changing the filter options, or you remove them altogether like this. You can remove it altogether like this. Okay, right. So we'll perform one more task. So we'll perform dynamic filtering at the data source level to display continent and customers segment values dynamically. So we'll perform dynamic filtering now at the data source level itself. The data source level itself to display continent and customer segment values dynamically. So we have to note here that at the data source level, it is possible to perform filtering dynamically with the help of parameters. So this is also one of the important points. So with the help of parameters, so we can perform filtering at the data source level also. Dynamic filtering at the data source level. So we'll connect to the so first we have different data sources. So in documents in my Tableau repository, so if you create an extract, that extract will be created as a .hyper file. Okay, so I have created such extract called superstore extract. So we'll use that. We'll connect to superstore hyper file, extract the hyper file from Tableau. So go to more, go to the documents folder, my Tableau repository, data sources. Here I'm selecting superstore extra dot hyper. So this is also a data source. So here I'll create two parameters. Okay, we'll create two parameters. With the name continent so it's string. Okay, and also we'll be adding a list. So I'll adding this from the extract data source from continent. So all the values would be added, and for each parameter, I'll be adding all and none, all and none values, all and none values. Okay. Now I will add one more parameter called consumer segment. Consumer segment. There is a string, and we'll choose list, and we'll add it from the field from superstore extract. Consumer segment. I'll also add all and none. Click on OK. So I've added two parameters, continent and consumer segment. Okay, so we'll right click on the superstore data source and click on edit data source and click on filter. We'll right click on the superstore data source and click on edit data source, and in filters we'll click on add. So I'll have to go to this extract file. Okay, edit data source, filters, click on add. So in add filter window, I'll select continent field and select all in the general tab. Click OK. So in condition, what I will do is I'll select by formula and use this condition. So continent equal to continent, parameter continent, or continent parameter equal to all. Okay, so we'll click on OK. So this will create a continent filter. Similarly, we'll add a filter for consumer segment. Select, we'll choose all, use all, and then condition by formula. So use consumer segment. Consumers, customer segment. It's called as customer segment here. Customer segment equal to So this is a parameter, or to all. Click OK. So we'll now go to the field, go to the worksheet. In this extract, we'll drag continent and customer segment field into rows. And sales into columns. We'll show both the parameters, consumer segment and continent. Right. And perform any selection in the check the output. So basically, so if you select Asia, we'll get Asia data. If you select corporate, you'll get corporate data. Okay. So our intention here is to perform dynamic filtering at the data source level to display continent and consumer segment values dynamically. Okay, so basically at the data source level itself, we are uh, choosing different options of consumer segment and then continent itself, and only showing that data like this. So we can also apply filters at the data source level like this. Okay, so we'll see differences between applying filtering at the data source level and filtering at the worksheet level, and also different options of filtering across multiple data sources in tomorrow's class. Okay, so we'll discuss about filtering across multiple data sources, and also what are the differences between filtering at data source level and filtering at filter sharing at the data source at worksheet level in tomorrow's class. And we'll also see some differences between parameters and quick filters and some best practices in applying the filters. So basically we have covered uh, uh, topics till here. So we have covered worksheet level. So we've left out with cascading filters and across multiple data sources. So we'll cover these two topics in tomorrow's class. Okay. So apart from that, all the filter topics have been covered. Any questions till now?
No, Kranti.
Right. Okay. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.